Hi everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here, and I saw Shaft 2019, which really should have been called Son of Shaft, or Shafts, because it has every shaft. It has original recipe Shaft, Leather Daddy Shaft, and new Shaft. He kinda sucks. Okay, so Shaft was one of the few movies I was actually looking forward to this year that I actually saw. I actually saw a movie I wanted to see. Unlike Aladdin and everything else I've been seeing all goddamn year. I actually really wanted to see Shaft. I was real excited for it, and it did not disappoint. Now, it's not doing well, but I think that's because in the rest of the world it released on Netflix. So it's probably really easy to download torrent a really nice HD copy that someone recorded off of Netflix. But still, I think it is solid, and I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna hate it because they don't really make movies like this anymore. Okay, I like Shaft. I like original recipe Shaft. I like the first one. I watched it a few times in college. Very slow. The plot's a little contrived, but it was good for the time. I still think it's good, but there are some parts that really just drag in that film. The second Shaft is great. It also is a little contrived, also drags for a bit, but it's got a helicopter chase at the end. That's one of the best things I've ever seen. Shaft in Africa is a little ridiculous, but it's the easiest one to follow. And then, of course, 2000 Shaft, directed by the late John Singleton. I enjoy. Some people are a little mixed on it, but I really enjoy it. Anyway, Son of Shaft, or Shafts. So basically you find out that Leather Daddy Shaft in the 1980s had a kid, and the mom took the kid away because there was a lot of fighting between gangs who wanted to kill Shaft. So he basically grew up not raising his kid. He would send him presents though. There's a great montage that shows this kid growing up throughout the 90s and now, and all the gifts that Shaft would send him. It even does a little recap of Shaft 2000. He's basically your average millennial. He's everything you kind of hate about millennials. To give you an idea of how much of a loser New Shaft is, let me just name some things that New Shaft might be guilty of. New Shaft posts about being vegan nonstop. New Shaft defends the Thundercats reboot. New Shaft's favorite Avenger would probably be Captain Marvel. New Shaft thinks Justin Wang videos are problematic, but he wouldn't say anything because he doesn't want to be called racist. New Shaft feels bad about cheating and goes to couples therapy in his early 20s. New Shaft is cool with friends hanging out with the guy who's suing him. New Shaft has a podcast. New Shaft ends his podcast because women find his co-host funnier and more attractive. New Shaft begs people on Facebook not to light fireworks because they might upset his dog. New Shaft is in a poly relationship, but only his girlfriend is seeing other people. New Shaft uses crystals instead of medicine. New Shaft prefers the Ghostbusters reboot. New Shaft's favorite rental review member is Justin. So yeah, New Shaft's best friend dies, and it turns out it's linked to like this bigger mystery involving a mosque, some veterans, and then a drug cartel that links back to Leather Daddy Shaft's investigation from the 80s. So basically they team up to figure out why the New Shaft's friend died. And so Leather Daddy Shaft can get revenge on the cartel. And the teaming up is really good. I know I'm making fun of New Shaft, but the actor actually does a really good job. Fucking Samuel Jackson, he's so fucking funny in this. And like I said, as much as I made fun of the millennial stuff, he does act like a total boomer. Like, he doesn't understand computers. He's saying like outdated shit, which I think is funny. But of course, New Shaft has a problem with all of it. His introduction's great. Well, not aside from the flashback in the beginning, when New Shaft goes to his apartment, there's like obviously like a stripper there, and then Shaft shows up. Leather Daddy Shaft shows up with just glitter all over his mouth, and I'm like, that's some really good details. Yeah, so he's still kind of the same. He's a little bit meaner too. Than we saw him in the 2000s one. But this movie, it's a serious plot and everything, but this movie has a lot of fun. More fun than most Shaft movies. Like, the first few Shaft movies are very serious, outside of some light humor and, you know, some of the sex stuff. I guess Shaft in Africa has the most humor, but I'm not sure how much of that was intentional. It's nice to see a movie poke fun of stuff in its history in the franchise, but not like insulting it. Like, they have fun with some of the Shaft tropes. Just to spoil a little bit, new Shaft's mom is on a date with a guy that Leather Daddy Shaft interrupts. And it turns into a whole thing. There's a big shootout. And the mom's date is like, you know what? They say that cat Shaft is a bad. And then the girl, you think she's going to say shut your mouth. Instead she goes, shut the fuck up. It took me by surprise. I was laughing so fucking hard in this movie. I had so much fun with it. The girl who plays Storm in X-Men, Alexandra Shipp. I remembered her name. I didn't want to call her Storm in the new X-Men, but I forgot her name for a second. Alexandra Shipp. Cute, and also really good in this film. It's rare that you see a young woman in a film be very pro-Second Amendment, even though she calls it the First Amendment because she messed up. Was not expecting. There's a lot in this movie that you're not expecting, and I can see why in most territories it went to Netflix. I'm shocked this made it into the theaters, but I'm glad it did, because I had a fun theater experience. This is the most fun theater goddamn experience I've had since Shazam, I guess, all summer. I had more fun with this than Endgame. Like, Endgame was good, but come on, it was too fucking long. I had more fun in this than Godzilla. Definitely more fun than fucking Aladdin. I don't even remember the last goddamn movie I saw. Oh, apparently there's like a Men in Black reboot out. I might have to see that. So yeah, I don't want to even spoil too much about the movie. I kind of want you to see it. It's not going to do well. It's going to get rushed out of theaters soon. But please try to see it. If you're in the rest of the world, watch it on Netflix. You can watch any Shaft movie on its own. There's not like a lot of origin to original recipe Shaft. Shaft 2000, they show you how Shaft goes from being a legitimate cop to a private investigator. But even when you meet him, he's already badass. Sleeping with ladies, it's my duty to please that booty Shaft. So there's no real Shaft origin. You can jump in at any point. This is probably the most Shaft origin we've ever gotten for a Shaft. Man, I'm saying Shaft a lot. There's more Shaft in this review than you can handle. Guys, it was the best goddamn poster tagline I've seen. Oh my god, it's so fucking funny. So yeah, I'm like smiling and being happy just thinking about the movie. That's how much I fucking love this movie. There was one issue. And if you care about spoilers, stop watching now. There's nothing funny coming up. This is like me. This isn't like a joke. This is like real Tony. They retconned something from Shaft 2000. So when Shaft 2000 came out, I remember people being like, "Oh, is this a remake? Is this a remake? Is this a People call it a remake, but it's not. It's. I mean, I guess it's a reboot, but it's in continuity with all the other Shaft movies because Richard Roundtree's in it. To which Samuel Jackson calls him Uncle John. So it's like, oh, so Leather Daddy Shaft is nephew to original recipe Shaft. And I like that because if you look up their ages, even though Richard Roundtree looks way older than Samuel Jackson, they're only 6 years apart. And I know it's weird to have an uncle-nephew that age, but it's not impossible. I've known like families where like the uncle was younger than the nephew because they were just pumping out babies. So it's not entirely impossible. So I was fine with that. But this new movie wanted to push the father-son agenda. So when you meet original recipe Shaft toward the end, Leather Daddy Shaft calls him dad. And then new Shaft calls him grandpa. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So first I'm like, oh, maybe original recipe Shaft had a twin brother we didn't know about? It's weird, but we didn't know that Leather Daddy Shaft had a kid in 2000, so I was willing to accept it. And then Leather Daddy Shaft says, oh man, you were a great dad after you stopped pretending to be my uncle. And I'm like, that I didn't like. However, Richard Roundtree was really great in this movie. Yeah. So there's my review of Shaft. I don't think anyone knew I was going to review Shaft. No one I know has seen the movie. But here you go. See Shaft. And, watch some of the old Shafts. I would definitely say for historical purposes, see Shaft, original recipe Shaft. But I prefer Shaft's big score. I think that one's the best. Clunky, slow scenes aside. That finale with the helicopter that's like all in camera, all real, it's really, really good. And then if you just want to have like a wacky time, watch Shaft in Africa. There is a subplot about female genital mutilation and it's treated as a joke. The 70s.